Welcome back, AvidMax Fly Tires, to another Tying Tuesday. Brady with you once more. Going to tie up a Batwing Emerger. So it's a cool little elegant emerging mayfly, midge pattern, whatever you need it to be there. Just kind of a cool overall fly. So that's an example of it. We'll take one out and throw our hook in our vise. This being the 2488H. Go-to hook. You've seen us tie on it before. And we have a glass bead on there. That's the wine color glass bead in a size small for this size 18 hook that I'm tying today. So first thing we're going to do is add some thread, dress our hook with some thread, and we got the Veevus 18-aught in white here. So we'll start that. I like to start it with this fly somewhere in the middle because we're going to need a lot of room up front to finish this pattern off. So we'll lay down some locking thread wraps and then clip out that excess, and we can tie in our tail. So the tail is going to be some done hackle here, and I have just kind of an oversized gauge off of my cape. You can take them from the back side, and you have a nice variety with the cape on the back side here. There's some feathers that you can use for buggers and other things. Also good for tailing material. So we'll just go ahead and straighten these out quite a bit and grab a small clump and prepare those to tie in. Trying to keep our tips nicely aligned there. And then we can bring that up and tie it on in. Right on top. And we'll just check our length out, make sure that's all good. You can always shorten it up if you need to. And then we'll walk right on up, and we're going to be real cautious of our thread wraps on this, making a very smooth body right up to where we left that thread, and then clip out that excess. Next material from there is the Perfect Quill from Semperfli. This is the small purple today. Real easy just to kind of peel off and ready to use. It's got a translucent piece to it, a little bit of a darker side, and then the purple in the middle. If you've ever tied with biots and quills, you know they can be somewhat frustrating and require extra prep. The Semperfli Perfect Quill really makes life nice and easy and gives you that same awesome look. So we'll wrap down, securing that in place. Take our thread right back up to where we're going to finish the body. Again, leaving ourselves plenty of room up front, both behind the bead and in front of the bead when we get to that part. There is a sticky side to this. I always tie the sticky side up because when I go to wrap, I'll fold that side down onto the body. And I like using the white with the purple because that offers a nice contrast. If you're using a dark colored quill, the white tends to make them pop a little bit, and vice versa. If it's a light colored, you can get away with a darker underbody. So now we'll go ahead and wrap that off. Just a super simple way to get a segmented body on this elegant fly, and then prepare for our next material. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to swap threads real quick because I want a nice similar finishing thread. And so for that, I'm going to use, this is the Semperfli wax thread in an 18-aught, and this is the gray color, which is going to match to the done hackle that I'm using on this pattern. This fly is really popular in olive as a BWO emerger. I do like tying with purple. I tie with purple a lot. If you've seen our videos in the past, you've seen a lot of purple. And they just tend to fish well. So now that we got our thread switched, we're going to use our the after shaft on the feather. So we have this after shaft here. I already used the main portion of this off of our cape. We have our nice cape here, which is great for our dry flies in a variety of sizes. And most of the time you would waste this after shaft. But the creator of this fly came up with a great way to use this on the Batwing Emerger. So we'll prep it first. And in doing so, I'm going to clip it short down here. So really it's these fluffy fibers. You can kind of see it better on this big one. It's all this stuff down here that you wouldn't want on your dry fly. Might finish a head okay on a streamer or something like that. But for this pattern, we're going to use it as the wing. So we're going to prep it by clipping it short. And then we're going to trim off all the way down to that fluffy area, giving ourselves somewhat of a bare stem as a tie-in point. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side, because that'll be our finishing portion. So we'll clip off just a little bit here. You can always do more of this later also once you have it tied in. But I like to kind of get it ready to go. Then we're going to take that, we'll get it ready to tie right on top. I'll take my Hackle pliers, grab the stem, and then kind of massage those all rearward, making it easier to tie in. So you can kind of hold it in place. You got your stem ready to go. We're going to position that right on top here. And then I like to also sort of slide it down underneath that bead. And that just helps kind of hold it for me so I can get that first securing wrap on it and then a few following wraps thereafter. Now that I have that in place, I'm going to add some dubbing. And this is the UV Ice Dub in Black, which is a nice dark dubbing that has a little bit of that purple accent to it. And we'll create a little dubbing noodle. Whenever I'm using ice dubbing in this fashion, I always use a little wax to help get a nice tight noodle there. And then we'll go ahead and dub right behind the bead over top of where we tied in. And we'll kind of check our bottom there to make sure that we're covering everything up nicely. Doesn't take too much dubbing, just needs sort of a little bump. Kind of makes a transition. And then as I mentioned before, we're going to pull this bead back, snug up against that, jump our thread over top, giving ourselves just a little bit of room out front to pull this wing over. And I left that stem a little long. Let me trim that out here. There we go. So some curing wraps. Make sure that's all in place. And now we're going to fold over our bat wing. And you can see I didn't trim quite enough. I want sort of a bare stem to tie down on, so I'm going to trim it back just a little bit more on the front end. And that'll help give me a nice clean tie point right up front behind that hook eye. So pull those feathers back, give it a couple of securing wraps. You can bend that stem back out of the way, sneak down in front of it a couple times, and then trim out the extra. And then we just need to whip finish it. So really a great way to utilize what would otherwise be wasted material. I've heard this was also how the RS2 originated. Rimchung used these similar materials for the wing butt in a different fashion on the RS2, and that fly evolved over time. But you can see it gives that bat signal right on top, thus the name, the Batwing Emerger. Really cool fly, great to fish wintertime, or kind of throughout the year if you can match it to different insects and hatches.